what are the brand attributes? Like, what is it? What are you trying to be and portray to the world? And then we say, okay, is that disruptive enough? Is that radically different from what's out there already? Again, there's so many Me Too businesses. There's a ton of businesses that are just like everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody right now, post-COVID, is like, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's another business exactly like every other financial advisor that you'll see, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to be another financial advisor and I'm going to do everything exactly like every financial advisor. Well, then you look the same, sound the same, you're not different. So why would I use you versus the ones that have been around for the last 10 years?
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategy while we enjoy our cup of coffee. Today's guest is Kimjera Whittington, and we're going to be talking a little bit about marketing today, specifically as it relates to focusing on storytelling and how storytelling impacts the market and storytelling impacts the end user, the customer that you're trying to talk to. She's got some great insights, some great examples to share with you today. And in order for you to check that out, you're going to have to stick around. But before we do that, I do want to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. We do this every week, release a brand new episode every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and we want you to be a part of it. So make sure you subscribe. It costs you nothing but a simple click of the button wherever you're listening to this on the audio platform, whatever podcast platform you're listening to it. And it's also available on YouTube and Facebook. You can see the video version as well. Thank you for joining us today. Get ready for a great conversation around how you can impact more customers by telling the right story to the right customers with Kimjera right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
Well, Kimjera, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here today or joining us remotely. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Did you get the dogs all settled? Everybody's
the dogs are settled. They like to come in on their own, so
they typically rule the roost, right? All right. So this is the way that our podcast happens. We do rapid fire, 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values, and then we'll give you a score at the end. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1: what was the last thing that you were truly disappointed in?
I'm supposed to be rapid fire, but I'm not good at this. Probably. Oh my God, I don't know. What was I disappointed in?
I've always thought we should probably just have a ticking clock sound in the background just to kind of drive people crazy.
You suck.
Negative points.
I was probably disappointed in the fact that it rained on the night of my Christmas party. There you go.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Okay. Question number 2. Can you describe your personal style?
I would say it's smart.
Smart style.
Smart. Yeah. I like to be a little trendy and hip, but also classy. So I don't know. They say it's smart. I'm not a style guru, so that's what I've heard.
Smart style. I'm going to Google that up and see what that means.
Google it.
Question number 3. What's the last thing that you gave up on? And are you happy or disappointed about it?
Oh, gave up on. I tried to, well, no. Yeah, I don't think I've given up on anything recently that I can think of.
You just always go after everything 100% and tackle it.
I'm crazy driven, which is a problem.
So haven't given up on anything, so you're not disappointed for sure. Question number 4. What have you done that you didn't like, but you would be willing to give it another shot?
Okay, that would be, I did the inner tube at the lake last summer because I just moved to the Charlotte area.
Okay.
And live near a lake. And so we were out on the lake all the time, tried the inner tube thing. I have to say, flopping around on that thing was not my finest moment, but I think maybe I would try it one more time.
That is very funny. So the inner tube or just getting pulled behind a boat or a jet ski seems in theory like it would be a blast. Then you actually do it.
not. It is not. It is not a pretty sight to see. Nobody needs to watch the video. We are done. It's going in the vault and not coming out. No, that being said, I mean, if I was going with one of my kids with me, I might try it again. Yeah. But I would be hard pressed to ever be videoed again.
Oh, that's funny. I'm laughing because it's so true. We had the kids out on the lake a couple of summers ago, and it's like the idea, they're excited. Yes, I'm going to jump on this tube. And then they get out there, and then the fear on their face immediately happens. And then when they get thrown off because they're just being violently thrashed about on the lake is, oh man.
Oh yeah. But watching people, like the bloopers of people eating it, like I have my kids like spinning. It's fun. It's super fun. I like being the one watching, not the one doing.
No, the most fun participant in the tube being pulled behind a powered boat is the person driving. That is the absolute best position.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll be the flag girl.
Yeah.
Person down.
All right. I lost count of questions, but I believe this is question number 5. What's an example of when you changed your mind?
Changed my mind. I change my mind all the time. I just did last week when we were heading in one direction with strategy, and I immediately say, nope, I have a better idea. And I'm perfectly okay changing my mind.
Very adaptable in the situation.
Very adaptable. Like sometimes you are driving down the street and you're like, nope, I think I'm going to turn in here. Grab a donut. Damn Krispy Kreme calls me every time.
All right. Congratulations. You made it through Rapid Fire. We'll give you a score of 834.
Oh, well, all right. I don't know. I think you overrated me, but I'll take it.
All right. Well, I've never had anybody say that they've been overrated, so that's a pretty great accomplishment. So let's jump into the conversation. Your company is Evolve Global Marketing. So, surprise, we're going to be talking a little bit about marketing today. Before we kind of say, all right, well, I've heard conversations about marketing before. Why do people, in a quick 30-second pitch, why do people need to stay tuned to listen to what you have to say about marketing?
Because I'm not going to just talk about marketing. I'm going to talk about how to create a competitive advantage for your business. There's a lot of noise and complexity in the marketing world. And so what I do is, and you haven't said it yet, which is branding. We're going to talk about how to disrupt your market and brand yourself or your business so that you actually put yourself in a league of your own. So you're not going to get all the tips and tricks unless you listen in, and storytelling too, which is there's a lot of power behind leveraging good stories and positioning your brand as the hero, not the guide. And it's not exactly what you think. So if you don't tune in, you're not going to get the tips.
You're gonna completely miss out. All right.
You're gonna miss it.
So I guess give me a quick introduction. How did you get into this world? Why are you excited and passionate about disruptive marketing and storytelling?
Mm-hmm. So I spent 23 years in corporate America running huge medical companies, sales and marketing, was running $50 million books of business and huge sales teams. And what I realized was that marketing and sales tend to do this a lot in businesses, like they go at each other instead of working hand in hand and in tandem. And there's a problem with how businesses leverage the power of the words that they're using. And so we saw that time and time again. So I started my agency just on my own as a freelancer in the beginning, and then turned it into a full-blown company with all the bells and whistles and everything you need to market your business. But we really stood on the framework of how can we give people a true competitive advantage and leverage the power of strategy and words to give people, a new way of marketing their own business. And so I saw a huge gap in that. It was missing.
So you just said something, and you're not the first person that I've heard say this before, but maybe the first person that I'm going to kind of press in on it a little bit more. Most businesses, sales and marketing, are kind of going against each other rather than pushing in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why do you see that to be the case?
Yeah. It's because people are passionate, I think, about what they do. I truly believe marketing has one angle, and beyond marketing is even the brand itself of the company, right? So you have to leverage the brand and then market it out into the world. They're two different things. And when you're trying to do that, there's a lot of things that go into that that's very different from how are you going to sell the services. And so a lot of times sales wants marketing to do things for them to help them win more business. And yet it might go against what the brand's about, what the brand is trying to leverage, the overall strategy of the organization and the company. So we have to take a step back and look at that and then incorporate the strategy and the words for the sales team. So I think it starts with brand, then goes in the words you're using, and then the visuals, and then goes out into the messaging that you're using within all aspects of the organization.
So how have you seen some successful teams be able to navigate that and get their sales and marketing departments really on the same page and working collectively towards the common outcome versus the typical challenge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it starts internally. So we do what's called employer branding. So you have to start with what is the internal brand that the company's trying to portray within the organization, and then you filter that out to the external brand. And all of these different pieces go hand in hand. So you have employer branding, consumer branding, and then personal branding. And so if you can leverage internally what the mission, vision, core values are of the organization and what we're trying to accomplish, and then allow that brand to start to be developed with a unique position, a competitive edge, disruption. I'm kind of known for that. Mm-hmm. That should have been my word, by the way, earlier. Because I love to come in and see how can we do something different. And so if you can leverage that and then take it out, then your consumers, your customers, your potential customers will own your brand and they'll start to think about you in a specific way. And that's what you're ultimately trying to get them to do, is you want to be top of mind when they go to buy.
So if I just could repeat what I think I just heard you say, was most of the times when you have a struggle between those two departments, it's because marketing is focused on the consumer brand and not necessarily connecting it to an internal brand. And sales is trying to activate things based off of an internal brand that doesn't necessarily align with the consumer brand.
Yeah, in an essence, could be the other way around. It just depends on what the higher ups have said is kind of the focus and the goal. So I think I would sum it up this way. Probably the biggest issue is there's no actual strategy.
Okay. That's
so
fair.
If you
That's
don't
simple.
have a full strategy on bringing in all pieces together and getting everybody on the same page, then there tends to be tension. And I don't think a little bit of tension is good in any business, but a significant amount of tension isn't going to help sales, and it isn't going to actually help consumers either. So we have to meet in the middle.
Gotcha. And so when you talk to you, so you just, I think, alluded to this, when you first start out, you do a kind of an understanding of what the internal brand is, because you want to, again, I'm just kind of thinking from a core perspective, whatever is important there in the center, and then that's going to convey out to the outside and then convey out to that kind of external layer. So you're trying to find out really what is the brand about? What is this business about? And what do the people that work here believe that it's about first? How do we start from there?
So we got to talk about core values. We have to talk about vision, mission. We have to talk about, what are the brand attributes? Like, what is it? What are you trying to be and portray to the world? And then we say, okay, is that disruptive enough? Is that radically different from what's out there already? Again, there's so many Me Too businesses. There's a ton of businesses that are just like everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody right now, post-COVID, is like, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's another business exactly like every other financial advisor that you'll see, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to be another financial advisor and I'm going to do everything exactly like every financial advisor. Well, then you look the same, sound the same, you're not different. So why would I use you versus the ones that have been around for the last 10 years? So we start internally, like you're saying, with what's the business itself about. What are they trying? Where's their vision? Where do they want to go? Then is it different enough? If not, we've got to figure out what problem we're solving and solve it in a new and profound way. And then we figure out what that, customer is that's going to buy this. So we look at personas and avatars and try and define who that is. And then you go out into, okay, now we can tell an incredible story about our customer and help them see why we're going to help them solve a problem they have.
So first identifying who you are, what's different about you, what your advantages are, then figure out who actually is interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. Like, who are we targeting? And we do this in a lot of different ways. Sometimes when you're not sure what the problem, you start with the customer design. So we have a lot of different structures that we can do this in. Maybe we design a customer that we're going to go after, and we're going to own a market that nobody else is going after at this point.
Managing your facility, properties, and projects is hard enough. Trying to find an emailed quote in your overflowing inbox is just one more annoyance, especially if there are multiple versions. We're working hard to make your life easier by providing all the information you need in one place. Now you can request service at a date and time that works for you. And we're making it easier to see quotes and materials needed for specific openings, including photos, so that you can approve everything from the convenience of your phone or computer. Log in to start using it now. Visit customer.loc-doc.net.
So how do you help a company? So you talk about disruptive branding. So doing something different, right? What are your differentiators? How do you help a company like ours figure out, because we're just like everybody else. How do you start to think or start to uncover what those differentiators, I can't even say it, differentiators are?
I knew where you were going with that. So we have strategy sessions that we go through, and we have a structure around that. So we start with some pre-work, and you'll tell us in data dump what you know about your business. And then we dive into the strategic ways that we pull information out. We look at competitors, right? We do a lot of opposition research and try and just figure out, what are they doing? What are they saying? Is there a lane we can own? And then we have a lot of, ways that we can then say, okay, if we went after this particular customer and we define them, then how are we going to message that? Is it going to be compelling at all? So it's hard for me just to tell you, like, this is how we do it. You'd have to actually walk through it with us. But this is my happy place. Like, I feel like this is where I come to, like, when I'm working with a client, we spend an entire day with you. It's not like we do an hour phone call and like supposed to understand your brand. We're spending days with clients trying to really dive in, working with the staff internally and figuring out what new ideas we can come up with. And it is a creative space. A lot of it is creative. You look at a lot of the brands that are out there that have kind of taken off and how they disrupted the market and did things completely different. CarMax, Carvana, couple businesses. Netflix is known as a disruptive brand and how they've gone to market. So there's a lot of companies that have built great businesses around this. What
do you say to somebody that's in an industry or a market or whatever that says, one, I don't need to be disruptive, or two, our industry is just kind of boring anyway, so how could we create a disruptive brand?
Boring is not good. No. So yes, people do believe their business is a commodity. And truthfully, some businesses are a commodity. But is there something that you can do differently? Is it the type of guarantee that you're giving? Is it the type of customer that you're targeting? Is it some way that you service people that's different from anybody else? We have a client right now that does HVAC, huge client. They're in Missouri, and they have built such incredible technology on the back end of an HVAC distribution arm. So they wholesale stuff. And so they've got, they'll go to your location and they'll do your inventory for you. They've got boxes outside where you can pull up after hours so you don't have to miss your family's dinner, and they'll have a box that you can grab your part. Things that nobody in the industry is doing today. So again, what you would consider a commodity business that other people are doing, there's a lot out there. They're figuring out how to disrupt the market.
Gotcha. So just thinking outside of what the normal would be and figuring out what really impacts your customer base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like I was in another great example. I was in Spain. I travel a lot. I'm a wanderlust traveler. Drive my family crazy. I'm always somewhere. Mm-hmm. So, and I love it, right? In this digital age, you can be on, your computer anywhere. So I was in Ireland and went to a wonderful restaurant. It was called Pink, right in downtown South Dublin. If you've never been there, and if you're going to Ireland, you got to go to this restaurant. Really cute and quaint. But they built their whole business on great food, and everything in the restaurant's pink. Again, totally disruptive when you're considering Dublin pubs that just picture that feel that you would expect.
Dark
Here
wood,
you walk past
green.
it, right? The whole restaurant, every drink, every martini, all the, the walls are pink so that you can take photo ops and post on social. And it's incredible. And they've done it just by changing a color and making their whole restaurant about a color. And yet they do have great food, because you can't survive as a restaurant without great food. But I found it like a phenomenal disruptive brand.
And the name of the place is called Pink?
Literally called Pink.
I mean, they've really kind of
literally
dialed it in.
That's what they went for. But I mean, you can't miss it, right? A, you can't forget it. B, you know what it's about. C, it is packed. Like we had to get a reservation like a week ahead. So you're talking about one little change in how you're marketing your business that can make all the difference in the world.
Just really rallying around one really idea. Okay, so let me dance forward quickly. So disruptive branding, disruptive marketing, finding differentiators, and sometimes those could be challenges. Sometimes maybe they're very easy to identify. When you identify that, and then you start to move into the power of story, because you mentioned that earlier as we got started in the conversation. Coming from a mindset of here's what I do. I offer this service, this service, this service, and this service. Why does story matter? And maybe that's a bit of a leading question, but all I need to do is tell you all the things that I do, and then you can fill in the blanks as to if you need to use my services or not. Why does story matter?
Okay, so great question. Yes, it was leading, but I love you for that. So storytelling in marketing is probably your best friend. What you said is exactly what happens. 90% of all the businesses out there, maybe even higher, are saying, here's who I am, here's how great I am, here's why you should buy from me. You think that you have to convince people of your value in order to get them to buy. I challenge that, because the human brain wants to do the opposite. They're looking to have somebody help them solve a problem that they have. They're wanting to make their life or their business better. So they're looking for someone out there who they can resonate with, who gets them and gets the problem and the struggles they have, and says, here, I have an answer to make it all go away. Just like what I do, right? Anyone who's struggling with their branding, their marketing, can't get a return on their investment. They're not getting an ROI. They don't know why it's not working. I'm someone who can solve that problem. So in my marketing, I'm talking about how their business is going to succeed and get better return, have better marketing, get results when they work with someone who can tell a story, right? You want to do the same in your business. You want to leverage yourself as the hero. I'm sorry, I do that every so often. I get that twist, and then I get to talk about how I just made a mistake. So if I could do a curtsy, I would. So you want to be the guide and let your customer be the hero. And the main reason is because if you are positioning your brand as the guide, you're actually the strongest character in any story. You are Yoda, right? You are the one with wisdom. You are the one who is going to help somebody else succeed. Yeah. Let your customer win. Tell them how great they are. Tell them that they can do it, and tell them how they can accomplish their goals while doing business with you. And so it's less about you and more about them. And that's the power really behind story. Tell
me one of the most challenging conversations that you've had with somebody trying to explain that they're not the hero.
Usually it comes from someone who loves the idea, but just can't buy into why they can't give all the information. See, you mentioned words in the beginning. People's attention spans are really, really, really not good nowadays, right? 3 seconds, and they're like deciding whether they're going to bounce or not from a website or from marketing. So, I've had people who potentially came in, and I'm pretty good at working with them and getting them to come around. But every so often you get someone who's like, yeah, but if I don't tell them all the complexity of my business, especially technical companies, financial, the ones that SaaS companies, we've worked with all of them. They tend to think, God, everything I have to say is so important, because if they don't know the intricate details behind something, that they're not going to want to buy. But the truth is, people aren't buying that way. They're buying on emotion. They're buying on who they are in their company and what their life entails and how you're going to help them get something done that they're tasked with. And so they're buying on emotion. And so we have to share with them more about their success And so I've had situations where people, probably the most difficult one I would say was a woman that I was working with. She was amazing. Oh my God, the most brilliant. But she just felt like what she was having to say was more important than what the customer was going to get. And that if they understood her mindset, then they would want to work with her. And there's some truth to that, but it's all in how you leverage it.
According to a recent study, nearly 50% of burglaries and unauthorized entries happen through propped or unlocked doors. We want to help our community improve this statistic.
At Loc-Doc Security, our customers want locked and latched doors and openings to prevent theft, property damage, or even physical attacks. We are urging everyone not to wait for something to happen. You can be proactive today.
So I want to ask a couple of questions on that, because I hear what you're saying, and I also have a little bit of context of what you're talking about, but just trying to flip this around to maybe somebody that's listening or watching to this that's got zero context to what we're talking about. What is the difference between just giving the complexity of what it is that you do versus telling a story that impacts the customer that is going to buy the product? Can you give me some examples of how that would be carried over?
Yeah. So a perfect example is one of my clients, Masada. They're a technical company. When they came to us initially and we did the brand strategy to start, the first thing that came up with them was they were actually selling on their website and in all their marketing B2C. So they were trying to sell the technology to the end customer. Why cybersecurity and zero security? They're a technical company, right? Like all this crazy stuff. Why a customer is going to want that? Mm-hmm. What we realized really fast is they were not selling B2B, and their customers were these high-end companies like Deloitte, some big, huge vendors that needed somebody to come in and to help them with one aspect of the type of cybersecurity they did, CyberArk. Mm-hmm. With that, I know that was very technical, but with that, not realizing they weren't B2C and they were B2B, we were able to reframe the message to, instead of saying, here's all the great things that we do and why we're great and we have the right people and we have the right staff and we're going to do all this great stuff. Instead, it was, here's how you're going to stay competitive against your competitors by leveraging our resources to help your companies with CyberArk technology. I know that was a lot. Mm-hmm. That being said, it really came down to flipping the conversation around and talking to the right audience.
Okay.
Do you want me to redo that? I don't know. Was that good?
No, that was great. So here's one of the.
It was complicated. Yeah. I know. I chose a complicated one on you.
Well, here's one that here's the one that I've observed that I think is pretty interesting. So. Maybe this is way too much information, but I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't watch a lot of broadcast television. So mainstream advertising is not going to hit me. On YouTube, there's a lot of embedded advertisement. I'm not talking about the ones that pause the video, but the creators are actually putting content inside of their videos. Yeah. And there are several VPN and when you talked about cybersecurity, it triggered my thought on this. There are several VPNs out there that are utilizing this creator market to advertise to the consumer. And a VPN is a very complicated, complex idea. And it typically had been very reserved for enterprise businesses. Mm-hmm. The way, so you could go through this entire list of complicated bullet points of how VPNs work and why they're important and all this stuff. The way that they have been able to flip that over to a story that's applicable to you, Kimjera, because you travel a lot, is you still want to watch your same Netflix show that you can only watch in North Carolina or in the United States. When you're traveling in Ireland, you can use a VPN to change it back to look like you're in America. Or if you want to watch a show that you can only see outside of America, you can change your location to show outside of that. That one little thing. A VPN does 1,000 other things from a security standpoint, but they talk about how you can watch your Netflix videos and get access to shows that you typically wouldn't have access to.
It's a disruptive marketing concept. And B, it's hitting a whole new audience, right? So now they're inventing the traveler, the families, the people who are digital nomads who are going from area to area and they still want to watch shows from, America or from another country. Yes, absolutely. And I do that. I have that. So definitely that is a perfect example and a way more less complicated one than I tried to give you or way to do this.
But I think the reason that I asked that question originally, because I'm very intrigued by it. And from a business perspective, from a business operations perspective, it's really hard to get into that mindset because what we do is very complicated. What anybody does, there's typically some complexity to it. And it's really hard you've got to imagine that there's these super intelligent engineers that have developed all these VPN systems that are sitting there just like pulling their hair out because they're like, do you understand what all we're doing? And all you're talking about is the fact that you can watch Netflix wherever you want.
All you need to get sales. But that is the message that's going to resonate with a particular audience. Another example is I have a client, they're called Sprinkled with Pink Shop. Worked with them a couple years ago. They were phenomenal. And they do, they started at Etsy and we're doing like branding and specific stuff for like bachelorette parties. So you have a bachelorette party and you're going to, need a bunch of bling and gifts and t-shirts and all that. And they could custom put whatever words, whatever things you wanted on them so that you would all look the same, right? So they started there and they've branched out since then and grown significantly. But we were looking at their messaging and saying, okay, what are you really doing? And we realized that really people who are putting any kind of party together are looking for that Instagrammable moment.
Okay.
So we said, life's too short to have a boring party, right? You want to get that gram shot and you want to be able to say, look, this is what we did. That's the true for anyone who's putting a party together. Like if we're like, this is it. And everybody's like, oh my God, that was so great. You succeeded as the host of that gathering, right? So it's coming up with that. Like your audience wants to hear those words and is going to resonate with that and go, that's me. That's what I want. Like, oh my God, we have to get these shirts. And next thing you know, they have an order. It's coming up with the words, the visuals as well. You got to have both. But what are you going to say that's going to trigger emotion and get someone? You're creating experiences online and people don't realize that they're literally creating an experience.
So the fundamental thing that you kind of keep going to is getting that messaging to the person that's going to make that decision that triggers that emotion that says, yes, I can't move forward without doing this, buying this, using this service, connecting up with this company.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to use your VPN example. That's awesome. I love that one.
Well, I'll let you have it free of charge. All right. So when we talk about disruptive branding, setting up differentiators, and then power of story, the biggest takeaway that you could say to if somebody's listening to this, watching this video, going, okay, I understand it. What do I need to do? Because my business is complicated or I'm busy and I've got other things going on and all this sounds really great. What's the action that I need to take?
Yeah. So definitely, start with visiting my website. I have a great video on there about the power of storytelling. My website's evolveglobalmarketing.com. Get information. We have a ton of blog posts. We have a ton of insight. There's all kinds of things you can read up on. So I always say first, start learning. If you want to know about storytelling, there's a great book by Donald Miller. I am a StoryBrand certified guide and I'm on his advisory board. His book is called Building a Story Brand. Fantastic book. So start learning. I also recommend Marty Neumeier Zag. He has a book that's about, it's literally called Zag, about differentiation and disruption in the market, but he has a whole bunch of books. And so both of those are kind of my go-tos on helping people understand the power of the two. And then if you're interested in needing support, I offer free consultations. Like I'll be happy to chat with anyone for free and just get to know you and understand your business and see if we can come up with some ideas and then help you hopefully take it to the next level. There's so much power in what people are doing in this world and people need what you're doing. And it's just figuring out how to get the right expert to support you. And there's a lot of people out there that, have some skills, have some talents in certain aspects of marketing and branding. And so for a lot of people, they just don't know where to go. They don't know what's the right next step. So I'm happy to support in any way I can.
That's awesome. I always enjoy chatting with people like yourself that are excited about getting the messaging from a company to a consumer, to a business, and just the triggers to think outside of the normal way that you're trying to communicate, and so that you can really get the right message to the right audience. So that's really what it comes down to, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, visuals and prettiness is not going to sell something unless you're an e-commerce consumer brand. Then it can make a difference on a shelf. You need both, and the words do matter. So I'm glad that you appreciate it and you understand it. And then I'd say even more than the words, the strategy is like the foundation. You know, people waste thousands building a whole bunch of stuff out, and they don't have any foundation on what their brand's actually about, who they want to serve. And a lot of times you end up with a company you don't even like at the end of it because you didn't take the time to build that foundation.
Kimjera, thank you for joining us today. What a blast. Great chatting with you today. All right. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We've got a new episode coming out next Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. and we don't want you to miss it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on the podcast platform or video on Facebook and YouTube. And check out Loc-Doc.net/podcast for all 200 plus episodes of the Coffee Break Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time right here.